Happy Friday, everybody. It is our favorite show of the week. Well, at least it's my favorite show of the week. Wheels is still on the fence about it. He's coming around, though. It is time for our weekly OneSoccer Roundtable, a show that is driven by you, our viewers. So get your questions in, your comments in. From now until the end of the show, we will do several calls for questions throughout the hour. Finn G is already in the chat. Says the best Canadian soccer show is back. Finn, you are right. And then Finn, I think, changed his profile picture so everyone knows he is a Pacific supporter. Finn, it's great to have you back. It's great to have everyone, as it is to have Charlie and Gareth with me today for our impromptu plaid flannel. Wow, plaid flannel. Easy for me to say. If I don't screw up at least once in the intro, it's not a Friday show. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Great to see you.
Let's Fridays.
I like that way better. Let's start
I love that.
With the Canadian Premier League and FC Edmonton, who have needed some good news. It's not all doom and gloom, but they're definitely due for their share of celebratory announcements, and they got one with the announcement that Luke Singh of Toronto FC is heading to Clark Stadium this season on loan. There were rumors initially about Pacific. That fell through. He will be wearing the denim blue of FC Edmonton this season. Charlie, your thoughts on some good news for the Eddies?
Yeah, it is good news. Edmonton obviously needed a lot of things this offseason, but they specifically needed a defender to replace Amir Didic, right? There are different profiles of defenders with Luke Singh, but bringing in somebody to shore up the back line, this is, I think Luke Singh is probably one of the higher profile players that FC Edmonton have signed so far this offseason. I know that we previously we thought that Luke Singh was going to Pacific as part of the Lucas McNaughton deal. I guess that didn't work out, so he's going to Edmonton, and I think that's probably better for both him and for Edmonton because he'll play a little bit more there. And it's going to be interesting to see how this Edmonton team does. I know they've certainly needed, as you said, Adam, a little bit of good news like this. It's going to be a tough year for them. I think we all know that. But it is going to be really fascinating to me to see how this team plays because they're obviously going to have a big chip on their shoulder, I think, heading into this year. There's a lot of players here that are here. They're hungry for the opportunity and they just want these professional minutes. And it's going to be interesting just to see how they respond to that situation.
Big season for Luke. He burst onto the scene because TFC was desperate. Unfortunately, I think they threw him into the deep end without a life preserver. And he struggled as the season went on. Really struggled, but the entire TFC team did. Look, Romeo, Dunn, other TFC players have gone out on loan in CPL and done well with their time and got themselves moves elsewhere. That might be where Luke Singh ends up, but he needs to go improve himself as a professional. I think it's a big season for him. Interestingly, for FC Edmonton, I'm kind of interested to see where this is going because they're almost taking some established, experienced players, some cast-offs from other teams, and giving them to Alan Koch and saying, okay, let's see what you can do with this group. I'm kind of intrigued of what this group of misfit players all coming together might actually look like. I think they'll play with a chip on their shoulder. I do think that there'll be some good players, good professionals included in that group. And it's a matter of how quickly they can come together. I think they're going to be a pain in the ass to play against. Mm-hmm. And hopefully Edmonton can kind of rally around that group of quote unquote cast-offs, right? Like be the outsiders, be the bleep disturbers of the Canadian Premier League. And that's something that hopefully the city can rally around because the fan support hasn't been there. It's been nowhere near good enough. The team hasn't been good enough from day number one. Hopefully that this can be like a little bit of a hipster team that can make some noise and just be difficult to play against.
I'm fully with you. And look, Alan Koch has said both in private and in public, FC opportunity is how we want to look at this club this year. And I will say for Alan, that is a vote of confidence from a man who didn't really owe Edmonton anything. He didn't sign up to come in and rebuild the team twice. And yet here he is. He continues to stay and he wants things to work. He wants to be a part of the solution in the future there. So I think it's very admirable for starters. And I'm excited to see what he can do with Wheels. You're right to call them essentially a group of misfits this year. Charlie, Benedict Rhodes wants to know if you can have your autograph. And also, B. Will wants to know, has Pacific, that's right, has Pacific done enough to replace the players who departed this season? So I'll go through my notes real quick. You get there's some rumors of Nathan Mavilla coming. Amir Didic comes in. The draft picks, Luca Ricci is one of them. And then you have Gennario Daniels and Benadio, who I think a lot of people are excited from out of CF Montreal. Gareth, what do you think? Has Pacific done enough? And I'm sure there'll be one or two more, but are you convinced they can repeat?
Yes. Well, at least be in the mix. I think there's three teams that, as of the way they're constructed right now, and obviously there's still a month and change ahead of the new season. I think that Pacific looks the real deal. Forge obviously looks the real deal, and Cavalry looks the real deal for me. Those three, like Cunha Dadaluke, the way that he stepped up and took advantage of opportunity when given to him, he steps right in for Caden Chung at right back. No problems there. Amir Didic, excellent center back. I'm looking forward to what he looks like on an actual good team that will play on the front foot. I think he'll look that much better. So yes and yes right there. I mean, those are the two big ones. They keep their central midfield largely intact. Baldissimo can come in and replace Ujabapur. So it's not just about bringing players from the outside and bringing them in. I think that there are players within that squad who are able and look good to take that next step and fill some of those roles.
Charlie?
Yeah, we still don't have the full picture on Pacific specifically. I think we know that there are a couple more big moves coming, but just from what we've seen so far, yeah, I agree, especially with Amir Didic. That's a massive, massive addition to replace a guy who was so integral to them last year with Lucas McNaughton. You know, Didic has been one of the most reliable center backs in the league for 3 seasons, I think. And Kunle Dadaluke as well. He played right back so well last year that at times they put Caden Chung on left that Dadaluke could get in a squad on the right side. And then the other thing is that if Pacific goes into this team and they have a healthy Marco Bustos for as much of this season as possible, that's huge, considering that they won a championship without him, who is objectively their best player. They absolutely still have what it takes to contend in this league.
It's a great shout, Wheels, too. When I just chatted with James Merriman yesterday, we're starting to do our preseason check-ins with all the coaches, and he kept mentioning the leadership group, but the first name he mentioned that wasn't one of your Diaz, Bustos, Jamar Dixon, of course, was Kunle Dadaluke. They're that high on this kid, and he's got a massive ceiling. I think it's a great shout. Let's move on to a question on a MLS and CPL vein together from Nick Friend. TFC II playing in the same place as York this year seems does this affect anything? So yes, the announcement that TFC II will be moving to York Lions Stadium. Gareth, your thoughts on the news, and does this affect anything with how York United wants to market and how this ground's split?
No, it doesn't affect York at all. These are two completely different squads. Look, whatever USL looks like, or MLS Next looks like the TFC is playing in, it doesn't have the same pull as you're playing within your own national first tier division league. Like it's just completely different. I think that there's a general support and fandom for Canadian players, Canadian clubs, and Canadian setups, and TFC's playing in something outside of that. So it changes nothing. You know, York's schedule is already what it is, and this is just kind of keeping that place occupied and keeping it active, which I think is good for everyone that works up in that area. I would have much preferred to see TFC play somewhere downtown. Like, I don't know why they keep on going up to that market. It never worked for TFC II. I used to call their games up at the Ontario Soccer Center, which is a wonderful facility, but in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's not easy to get to. It's not easy to get fans out to. I love the Lamport Stadium idea, but the facilities just weren't up to standard. Like, I think there needs to be a commitment to, providing something else downtown outside of BMO Field, where there is a decent, smaller facility for teams to play out of. I live right next to Monarch Park Stadium. I know they played a game there a couple of years ago. If they refurbished that stadium, it's in a cool, kind of trendy, young neighborhood in the city. That's the way that I would have preferred to see them go, but obviously cost is an issue and the availability of a facility is an issue. I was hearing rumors at times that TFC II were considering playing their games well out of the city in terms of one of the cities that one of their satellite clubs runs out of, which would have been extremely difficult for the players, the coaching staff, everyone involved. So I think this is a compromise. Is it ideal? No. Does it make sense? Yes. And we'll see what kind of turnout they get.
I will say the nostalgia there. You mentioned Downsview Park and Monarch Park, which are like the two former homes of the Ryerson Rams. So I know all about traveling to odd locations for football. This is a question from Twitter from Vincent at Atayoko. Do you think Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver are going to loan more players in the CPL this season? Charlie, we've already heard some rumors, and I don't think it would surprise me. Would it surprise you to see, I would say, even a handful more players get announced shortly?
It would not surprise me. I mean, I think I know fairly confidently that there are a couple that are probably going to be announced in the next couple of weeks or so.
Professional tease that, Charlie.
I'm sure there's more on the way, and especially now that the MLS season has started, teams are starting to get more of a grasp on who's in their first team, who they want to play in MLS next, and who are maybe some of those kind of players in the middle in that limbo that they want playing professional minutes against, in an adult league rather than a development league, right?
Couldn't agree more. Jeffrey, that's hurtful and correct simultaneously that Wheels and I look like Hoser Christmas.
We already said it's Hoser Friday.
Wheels, anything to add on that before we move on, or do you think Charlie covered the bases there?
On what? Like
the loan players to CPL. You can imagine a few more?
I'm sure. Like Montreal doesn't have an MLS Next team, and this is one of the reasons for it, that they've already stated that they prefer to see their players in the CPL, and why not? It's worked out really well for them with the goalkeepers, with Karifa Yao. Why not continue to go down that path? I think that it does take time, and it's good that the Canadian Premier League starts a little bit later, so these MLS sides can figure out what they actually have, who needs more experience, more time elsewhere, and kind of and how to make that work.
Agreed. Let's move on to this question from Sean Massey. What is the biggest gap on the Halifax squad that needs to be filled so they can better contend in the league? Scoring seems like a layup. Wheels, what do you think?
Yeah. They need someone that can put the ball in the back of the net. Is that going to be a bounce back from Akeem Garcia? I mean, they have to hope so. You hope that he actually comes in fit this year, because he didn't look like he was in shape at all last year. And without him, they were a little bit lost up top. I think their leading goal scorer after Morelli, what was it, Charlie? Was it two goals?
Salter had three. And then no one else had three.
It's not good.
Nowhere near good enough. I do think they need some improvement in the midfield as well, just in terms of their creativity. It seemed like it was Morelli or bust. I think they're okay in wide areas. Centrally, who's going to play alongside Rampersad, and how you get someone to kick on and be able to provide a little bit more in attack as well. So those are the two areas. And, perhaps that's Aiden Daniels. I think he's more of a workhorse in the middle of the park. You hope that he can provide that little bit more quality in the attacking third. But Adam, you said it off the top. It's finding players that can put the ball in the back of the net.
I was literally on with Hardy 15 minutes before we went to air, and then I asked him, I was like, is it something you can do tactically to try and give them better opportunities? And he said, look, all I can do tactically is put them in front of the goal. Then it's up to them to score. And they just didn't have that last year. So there's a lot of pieces. I think Gagnon Lapare is a solid one. And then you get Pshala back as well. So they have pieces. If they score, they'll be all right. Felipe Rojas. Morelli was one of the best players in the last CPL season. Do you believe the Canadian teams need more South American players like the Brazilian, who, Charlie, is now wearing number 10 this season for the Wanderers, switching from 22?
Yeah, which is a good choice, by the way. I like that. I don't know if it's specifically you need more South American players. I think that, Morelli coming over is an example of just better scouting. I think even in year one in a CPL, there were actually quite a great deal of South American players that came in, even in Halifax, with like Perea and I think Gutierrez was from Peru, and that didn't necessarily work out. So it's just you need to scout really well for your international players, because when you have a limited amount of them, you need to make sure that you get them right. And I don't think you want to limit yourself to saying, yeah, we need specifically South American players. There are very talented players in South America, and a lot of them are overlooked at the club level. And I think that there is a reason that we do see some of them coming over to the CPL because of that, because it is a little bit harder for them to maybe catch the eye of European clubs and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think all it is it's important to make sure that you get those signings right, and the scouting is top notch.
All right, we had
I just quickly in that, I don't care
Please.
where these players come from. Canada first, and then it's just about getting your scouting right. It doesn't matter where they come from. Like, is it making the league more popular because the Brazilian was the best player in the league last year? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think that that we're at that point right now, unless it's like marquee notable talent that you and I and everyone else is familiar with. I don't think it makes a ripple.
All right, let's move on to a question from Vincent Alvarado. Hey guys, what do you hope to see for our U20 roster building? And of course, a call back to the announcement yesterday, the dual qualifying for the U20 World Cup, as well as the Olympic Games coming up very, very soon for the men. Players in European academies or full-time professionals. For example, I believe our starting forward should be Luel Wright just based on his pro minutes. Gareth, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a collection of all the above. I think that like the one thing that's happened over recent years and has been expedited and improved under John Herdman, and there's been some movement in terms of like who's overseeing certain departments now, but there's like a plan in place where it's players are coming through the youth setup and playing in a similar way all the way to the top level of the Canadian men's national team. So you can look, it's a very simple exercise. Look at players who were at the under 17 World Cup, and a lot of those players will probably be involved with the under 20 side going forward. And there's always the outlier, and there's always other young players coming through and giving an opportunity. But now there's a real extensive pipeline where it's pretty clear what players are going to be coming through the system and the setup. As for who those under 20 players will be, I know that the preparations are going on behind the scenes, that this is something that's just not being thrown together. I cannot tell you as of right now who's included in that. My real focus has been on the senior men's national team because we have a World Cup to qualify for the upcoming window. But as soon as that is done and dusted and taken care of, that's obviously something that will be much more on the radar and will be very interesting to see who's included in that and how they fare this summer.
All right, we have some questions from Instagram. Let's start with Jorge. This is Jorge CER373. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that one because I'm going to screw it up. What's going on with Richie Laryea at Nottingham Forest? He hasn't seen any minutes. And earlier in the week on OneSoccer Today on Tuesday with Andy, Kalen, and Laura, Kalen was quick to extinguish some of the rumors that Richie wants out of Forest. He wants to come back to Toronto FC. Charlie, what is your read on this whole scenario for Laryea, making the move he's chased for so long, but being unable to crack the team?
I don't really think there's all that much to worry about yet. I mean, if you expected him to make his move after, going through an MLS offseason, not being in game fitness, and to jump into the side and play games in the championship, that was never going to happen. Absolutely not. So I think it's not like they bought him to be a massive, part of their promotion push immediately. I think they understand that Richie Laryea is a player that can help the club down the road, and it's not, a short-term fix for that club. It is something that they're investing in, and they want to see him succeed at that club. So obviously Richie's probably getting into training. I think I read somewhere this week that somebody asked the coach of Forest about him, and he kind of explained, Richie's a good lad. He's working hard, but he understands how difficult it can be to break into a side when you come in as a January signing. And that happens at every level. Even if you're a fully in-form player going from one Premier League team to another, it can be tough to immediately break into the side as a January signing. So I'm really not that concerned about Richie. I mean, for the national team, you want him to be playing minutes when he comes in to play at the end of March specifically. But for him personally and for his career, I don't think there's all that much to be worried about yet.
Yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Forrest, they're starting right back. Spence, he's been linked to moves to various clubs in the Premier League, at a higher level. So they need players at that position. Spence is a very good outside, right wing back, in a five. That's the role that Laryea would step in and play. It's not easy coming in. He needs to acclimate himself. I'm hoping that his sentiment isn't, I'm done with this, I want to come back. No, this is what it's all about. Like Eustachio right now, he's going to be battling for minutes in the Porto side. That's the danger and the risk, especially moving in a January window. You don't have that preseason. You don't have that runway to work. You're jumping on a moving train here. And so oftentimes those January signings aren't impactful in those first few months. It'll take them, the summer to really kind of get a feel and work themselves into the team. So I would stress that patience needs to be practiced here.
I will add, I feel a little bit as though Canada is becoming, it's another example of the ascendancy of Canada being a soccer country, because everyone's like, the mom and dad are like, oh, my kid's not getting the minutes he deserves, and he's yelling at the coach, and everyone just assumes that they make the move and it's their God-given right to start. And sometimes, like you say, Wheels, you just got to pump the brakes a little bit here. This is an unfair question from Capel_Aiden4 on Instagram. Wheeler, you're being attacked. Why does Gareth Wheeler hate on the Vancouver Whitecaps? Please tell Aiden why he's wrong.
Fake news. It's fake news right there. Like, I was the one person in MLS circles that picked the Vancouver Whitecaps to make the playoffs last year. Was I not, Adam Jenkins?
You were.
Have my back on this one. My problem with them this time around, I think they settled for a head coach because of the vibe around the team and not improving the group on the field. They're off season. What did they really add to this group that's going to make them tangibly better? It was a group that rode an incredible wave of momentum with a lot of home games coming down the stretch that proved difficult to beat, that rode their luck into the playoffs in a subpar Western Conference. Teams have got better. Teams have improved. I just don't see that from the Vancouver Whitecaps. And now with that bar in terms of where it is in expectation, that's being raised, I think they're going to have a really difficult time rising to that challenge and being the group that they were at the end of last season. That has nothing to do with hate. I really like some of the players there. Really like some of the people involved. I'm being honest in my assessment of where that group is at. And for me, they're an average MLS side. The way that the team's built is probably more suited to being successful in MLS 5 years ago, not today. So I think the league's evolving, and the Whitecaps are going to have to do so as well.
See a question here from Cryptic. I'll get to it in a minute. I'm going to jump in and play producer for just 1 second. So apologies to Kyle behind the scenes. But God. I did see this. I wanted to give some love to Wheels, who just got, I shouldn't say it was a rude comment, but there was a question. But this is from Abu Aziz, who says, if I don't get a shout out from Hot Wheels by the end of this, I'm going to be cheesed. Wheels,
you're my boy. You're my boy. I have no idea who you are, but you're my boy. Thanks for the shout out. Hot Wheels has always got your back.
There we go. Okay, so this was the question from Cryptic that I'd like to give to Charlie. Could White and Cavallini become a formidable striking duo by the end of the season? What do you think, Mr. O'Connor Clark?
Yeah, sure. I think Brian White's really, really good, and he had a really good run in towards the end of the season last year. Cavallini needs to be healthy. He needs to stay in the side, and he needs to kind of pick up some form, which would also be great news for the national team as well. Sure, they both have the talent to do so at that level in MLS. I'm not sure if kind of that's the way that the club sees it panning out at the moment, because they've got some other attacking pieces. But if they do turn into that kind of strong double striker formation, you've got Ryan Gaulden behind them, who's a very good player as well. Then yeah, sure, I don't see any reason why Vancouver's attack like that can't come to life. But again, I think we can't talk about Vancouver.
Are they the right mix though, Charlie? Can you see those two playing together and being successful? One fewer teams actually use proper strike partnerships. The way that they were, a lot of one player up top and play around. I just look at both those players looking to be kind of the fox in the box. One of them doesn't really help the build-up play, sustaining possession, bringing other players into the team. I don't know if both of them can coexist just in an effective, formidable strike partnership. I don't know.
No, I get that. And I think it is kind of a rarer thing at the moment to see a sort of two striker partnership up like that. But I don't know if Vancouver has the wide players to do anything particularly different in the squad at the moment.
Yeah,
so I think you kind of need it to work. Yeah. So that's kind of the best option at the moment.
Are you hating on Vancouver Whitecaps, Charlie? Are you hating
I would never do anything of the sort.
Why do you hate the Whitecaps, Charlie?
Scorpio Canuck opinion here. Vancouver doesn't have a number one. Until then, you can't bet on them. All due respect to Hasal. So Scorpio Canuck does not believe they have the talent and goal. Ryan asks, this could be for either of you if you have an answer for Ryan. What is the current story with Justin Smith at Nice? Is he in frame for the Canadian men's national team at some point?
I think I brought him up a couple weeks ago on this show, Adam. I know he was a player that Canada was in contact with, unlike other players who are rumored to be out there with absolutely no tangible link or ties to Canada. This player actually does. My understanding at the time is the French Federation for players who play within that country are very protective over just releasing players and making them eligible to play for other countries when they hold French nationality or citizenship. I don't believe, last time I checked, Smith wasn't playing that much this season. I'm not sure if he's been playing much at all. New manager, the former Lille head coach or manager went down, is now in charge of Nice. They're a good team. Smith is still a very young player. When names are brought up of players who can actually help Canada in terms of the center back position long term, he's one of the players that I'm monitoring right now and keeping my eye on. I think that I wouldn't rule out that possibility.
All right. This is a quick one and a simple one, which is why I like questions like this. From Tristan, how many games does the men's national team need to win in the next window in order to qualify for the 2022 World Cup? Who wants to say the magic number, Wheels? That's what I like to see.
Well, they don't have to win any game.
That's exactly right.
They can draw games. I saw somewhere that Brian McBride, former U.S. men's national team player, was commenting about what the U.S. need to do to qualify, and basically 26 is the number. No matter what happens, they'd qualify for the World Cup. So essentially, they need 1 point or other teams to fall away. Like, there is a world where Canada can lose all 3 of their games and still qualify. Now obviously that's not the way that they want to see things play out, and wouldn't be good for any of our health. But they don't have to win a game. They've done the work. They're on 25 points, 4-point gap. A point or two should be enough.
All right. We're going to get to, here we go. This surprised me, but I'm excited for it. Josh, our buddy at JJD TV. Again, if you missed it earlier in the week, an amazing interview with Hercules Gomez. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out.
Does this guy pay you? Like you're just sucking up to, or is this just the Adam Jenkins suck up?
This is just the Adam Jenkins
suck up. Just gonna suck up. Oh, I love you.
I have no marketable skills, Gareth.
You're the best.
I have big, goofy hair.
You're the best.
And I like to give shout outs. That's that simple. The question, Sassy Wheels, from Josh is, let's say we qualify after the Costa Rica match. What will be your guys' celebration beverage? And Josh, you can't say that you stop it. Stop it. I was just trying to cover you up. What will your celebration beverage? And that's a very polite way of forgetting an S on that question. Be when they do it. Charlie, Wheels needs a second, I think, to gather his thoughts here. So I'll ask you first.
Yeah, Wheels is a little upset at you. I think he needs to calm down. I don't know what the answer is. It's probably something Canadian, maybe a little rye. You think? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
My answer is all of them, to be quite honest. I don't really care which and in what quantity, but there will be many.
Well,
what about you?
This is what I think I do, because there's obviously just not one beverage and not one drink.
Oh,
that's right.
We've just gone through the octagon. I probably have the national drink, or a drink that reflects every other nation in CONCACAF among the 8. So 7 different drinks. I'd pour a little bit out for one of them and just shotgun the rest.
Some Corona and some Red Stripe.
Yeah. I love that. I guarantee you there will be some combination of bourbon, craft beer, and gin and tonics for me. Get your answers in, by the way, in the comments as well. I'm curious what your celebration will be. Back to B. Will for this next question. Which CPL 2021 bottom feeder is most likely to rise this season? I guess it depends on how Will wants to describe as bottom feeder. If you're just talking Edmonton or Ottawa based on the point gap.
Any loser club who didn't make the playoffs. Any loser club that didn't make the playoffs. How's that?
And Gareth's rules, and the only answer is Valor, but I will let you give us your guess as well.
I think it's Ottawa pretty easily, to be honest. Ooh. I think they've had the biggest offseason. Is that fair enough, Benedict? I think that they've had the biggest offseason. They've made some massive changes. They've got a new coach coming in. They're a completely different team this year, and they've got a lot of established Canadian Premier League players that can do well at this level, plus a load of other kind of internationals and players coming in from abroad. I think they're going to be a pretty exciting team to watch this year, especially under a different kind of coaching style.
I love that. Gareth, what do you think?
Valor. Always Valor. I think they have a decent squad. I really like Big Phil DeSantos as their head coach. I think he's an excellent coach. I think it's a coup for the Canadian Premier League to have him in this league coaching right now. There you go. There's some Vancouver Whitecaps love for you out there. And look, I think they found a little bit of something at the end of last season. Jean-Baptiste coming into the team. If they can bring Sirois back on loan, that'll be massive. Austin Ricci, if he's healthy, along with Akio. I look at this team and there's no reason why they shouldn't be a top 4 team in the Canadian Premier League.
All right. And as you mentioned, some definite interesting rumors with Jonathan Sirois, Karifa Yao as well. That was from, I believe, Soccer on Foley yesterday, at Soccer on Foley on Twitter, who is reporting that the duo will return to Valor and Cavalry respectively. Charlie, since I'm on the topic of Twitter, I have it open right now. I want to shout you out for an amazing tweet, by the way, that you had today. Jay Herdman and Sebastian Berhalter are either going to be best friends or mortal arch rivals, as Jay Herdman was announced both to the 10 family as well as the Whitecaps. There's a feature somewhere in there that I would love OneSoccer to do, but I will get back to Instagram now. Here's Boyle12. Did you guys see the MLS anonymous executive survey on The Athletic? If you did, thoughts? Full disclosure, no, I didn't. Charlie or Gareth, have you seen it?
I saw.
As we know, I only read Josh Cloak on The Athletic.
I saw excerpts. A couple things stood out.
Yeah.
One executive has my back that Gam and Tam are stupid and ridiculous, and just give more money to spend. Yeah, they all ripped it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
I did a rant on that next week. So yes, please let common sense prevail here. Number 2, when executives were asked about what the biggest off-season move was, only 2 executives picked Insigne to Toronto FC.
Yeah.
I forget that it was like the third most, or like there was 2 other transactions that got the most. In fact, Insigne to Toronto FC got the same amount of votes as Bob Bradley to Toronto FC. Lorenzo Insigne is going to be the best. Rosnak to Seattle. That was it.
Yeah.
Insigne is going to be the best player in Major League Soccer. How is that not the biggest move in a landslide? And if your executive didn't pick that as the biggest move over the course of the offseason, I would worry about your MLS side.
So I will give my love to Josh Cloak as always, but yes, no disrespect to Paul and Sam. That was 4 hours ago. I just pulled it up. MLS Anonymous Team Executive Survey, best and worst teams, owners, rules, underrated players, and cheating around the league. Interesting. I'll bookmark that one for later. Ryan says in the YouTube chat, the U.S. men's national team tiers is the bevy of choice for him, and I quite like that a lot. And it sounds like Charles Barkley is drinking the same. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that in a little bit. This is an important one, though, and I'm surprised it took me 33 minutes to get here. But Wheels, we got a big match coming up, and by we, I mean you. I really don't care either way. It's the Manchester Derby, of course, Sunday, 11:30 at the Etihad. How is your emotional state, my man, heading into the Manchester Derby?
I'm great. Wonderful. Things couldn't be better right now, supporting Manchester United.
That's really convincing.
If you're being held at gunpoint, Wills.
We actually, in recent seasons, have played well against City. We beat them at least once each and every one of the last 4 seasons. So, I mean, the first one was a travesty, but that was in that stretch of Liverpool, City, Watford under Ollie, which was just like the worst. And I'm looking forward to Sunday because now I can actually go into a bar and restaurant without capacity limits or something that's ridiculous. So I think I'm going to bring my baby boy to the supporters club for his first Manchester Derby. So it might end in tears. His tears, not mine, or maybe my tears, not his. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Sunday. Why not?
Fantastic. Charlie, what are your thoughts on the Derby? I know you don't have as much of a horse in the race, but it's always a big match.
Yeah, I hope everybody has fun. I hope I can recover in time to watch after watching Aston Villa beat Southampton on Saturday.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a big game of the weekend, Adam.
That's the Is this a real Premier League game derby? That one right there.
Yes. Yes.
Another one from Cryptic that we'll get to. I do see a question in the chat. I don't know if it needs to go up on screen, but James is wondering when the U20 Championship is. Don't you worry, James. I have that answer for you. So that is the women's, of course, right now on, and they have an exciting announcement that they will be live on the OneSoccer YouTube channel. So check that out tonight. And then there is the qualifying as well for the Olympics. And just as I said, I had it. I pulled up the wrong.
Cayman Islands tonight. Any chance they go 11-0? Like the
11? It might be more.
It could be more.
The Canadian U20s look good.
And Cayman Islands, it's one of my favorite places on the planet, but football-wise, it's not it.
James, I promise I'll get back to that. So let me ask this question to the gentleman, and then I'll find the information. Cryptic, which young Canadian will have a breakout season this year besides Joshua Cloak's favorite person in the world, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy?
MLS? Does he mean in MLS or
it doesn't say. That doesn't say from Cryptic. So I guess you can take whichever direction you want. But because he shouted out JMR, I would assume they're speaking of Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I'm assuming MLS. I don't know what exactly a breakout season is. Has Matthew Chouanier broken out officially? Because he's probably up for a big year in Montreal. Even kind of like has Michael Baldissimo in Vancouver. I think there's a lot of options in Montreal. And obviously, I think Jaden Nelson at TFC as well. Is going to be pretty in there now.
That's the one guy. This isn't me speaking. This is a scout mentioned to me a few weeks back. He's like, look out for Jaden Nelson this year. He's taking a jump. People like him, and they said just watch. This player is going to be in the mix with the Canadian men's national team. I haven't seen him play at that level before. I thought he was very good against FC Dallas. Looking forward to see him back out there tomorrow at BMO Field as well. So there's some real excitement around the player.
Absolutely. Okay. What happened to Tristan Borges? Asks Jack. He showed so much promise, but seems to have stagnated. Do you think he should follow Stefan Eustáquio and start in the Portuguese third division and move step by step instead of Belgium? He's been loaned back to Forge from Leuven. He looked really good at the Azteca, and I think he's going to have a really good season again. Interesting to hear Jack's thoughts on maybe the progression up the ladder in Europe is the best play. Wheels, what do you think?
Not necessarily. Look, and I've been on this, part of the Canadian Premier League, which makes it work, makes it appealing right now, is that there's professional television coverage of each and every game. Like, these players now have tape. Now, it's Borges, I think, had a down season coming back to the Canadian Premier League last year. Yeah. The league improved over the course of the year that he was gone. But I really like what I saw from him in the 2 Champions League games that you called at him against Cruz Azul. So he's going to be a focal point. He's going to be such an important piece to what Forge is trying to accomplish yet again this season. So, yeah, I don't think it's a case of what happened to Tristan Borges. It's like, not every player is going a trajectory like this. There's bumps along the way, and he's a very young player. What is he still, like, 22, 21, 22? I
want to say 22 or 23.
Yeah, I mean, he's
just
younger.
23,
he's younger than a lot of players who you might be high on, but they've been around for quite some time. And look, just playing in a European league doesn't mean you're playing in a better league. Like, some of these leagues across Scandinavia and Eastern Europe aren't as good as the Canadian Premier League, right? Mm-hmm. So, you need to be careful of where you go. And just because you're playing abroad doesn't mean that you're playing at a very good level.
Tristan Borges, 23 years old. Thank you, Google, for reminding me of that. And Garrett, that's a good point. And it's something we can have a lengthy conversation about. I don't think we'll have time to do it today, but we obviously see MLS Next coming in, and you see some players like your Kwame Awuah, who has a bit of a different situation with St. Louis, and Mo Farsi, who think that MLS Next is the best way to get to Major League Soccer. And then you have the players that think just getting to Europe is the goal, and you work your way up from there. And the longer the Canadian Premier League exists and produces some good talent, I think that narrative is going to change quite a bit.
The Awuah one's an interesting one because he's going to a USL club who's not staying in USL. They're making the jump to MLS.
It's a season-long tryout for Major League Soccer. Agreed.
Exactly.
Like now, the one thing I don't like about that move is the incumbent starting left back that St. Louis signed is like a Bosnian international.
Right.
So are you really going to get an opportunity there? So, I don't subscribe. I don't love Canadian players going to USL to maybe make a little bit more over the short term. I just think the league's all over the place. There's no consistency. There's no true identity. And that's something that I think that the Canadian Premier League offers, which the USL doesn't.
I think it's an interesting one too, Charlie. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but you have the Abubakar Sissoko's leave the CPL, go to the USL, and all of a sudden they're back in Canada. So it's almost like a case of you don't know what you're missing until it's gone, and it's still new. So people still have to learn this for themselves. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Sissoko's a funny one because he leaves and comes back, and suddenly he's a right back.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. I think, the grass isn't always greener in some other league just because it's somewhere else, or the country has more soccer teams in it or whatever. Like, the road to the Champions League does not necessarily have to start in the Portuguese third division. There's a ton of pathways to whatever each individual's dream or ambition is, and that the CPL is a major part of that. I think Gareth, you mentioned it earlier, but like the ability to build a proper highlight reel or a portfolio that your agent can shop around to clubs is massively underrated.
Valuable.
And that's something that you don't get in USL for sure, and in a lot of the lower European leagues either as well. So I think that players are always going to be coming in and out. Players are going to have different opinions. Agents will see the league differently, but we're definitely seeing that there is a significant role to play for the CPL for these players who want to make those moves and move up in the footballing ladder.
Yeah, and that works in terms of Canadian Premier League recruiting as well. Like, some of these leagues across Central America, the Caribbean, even South America, like, if there's not regular tape or professional tape where you can actually get a feel what the player is all about, you're relying on an expansive scouting network or people that can vouch for individual players. So what we have here, do not take this for granted. Like, there's something being really built here that's exceptionally valuable with the Canadian Premier League.
Absolutely. I also appreciate how Gareth doesn't call Charlie out for sucking up to Media Pro Canada OneSoccer, but calls me out for just showing some love to the chat. Love that. I see where I stand. This is from Conrad. Lots of rumors about Karifa Yao getting loaned back to the Cavs. Mentioned that about 5 minutes ago. Soccer on Fully on Twitter with that report, and then Northern Tribune picked it up as well. If this turns out to be true, does he continue to grow and develop? What do you believe Karifa Yao's ceiling is, Gareth?
I want to start with Charlie on that because I can't comment on the rumors. I'm not sure if Charlie's heard anything. So
right,
I'm not on rumors.
I don't know either. I actually haven't heard anything specifically on him.
So let me rephrase it this way then. Let me rephrase it this way. There is someone who is reporting. We don't know if we can't validate them. We can't say yes or no. But if the reports are true and Karifa Yao is indeed going back to Cavalry, what do you think his ceiling would be with another year in the CPL, and how far do you think he can go?
Like, just looking at Montreal's, back line right now, Camacho, Waterman, Johnston, Corbo, and Miller.
Yeah.
Miller. So where does Yao play? Regular football. And Yao's I believe he's 20. I don't think he's 21 yet.
I'm not sure.
He needs to play.
He might be turning 21 soon. Yeah.
When you're that age, you need to play. And I really like Dan Klump. I like the players at Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s disposal, and I think that it can help get the best out of Yao. Something to keep in mind, like, I'm looking at this upcoming season for the Canadian Premier League really being year number 2, because we went through the Island Games, which was a tournament, not a season. And last season, everything was like crunched together. Like everything was so compact. The season started in June. It was just like a 100 meters, sprint that just seemed to kind of go on and on and on and on. Like, this is a real season with real preparation. I think it could be very valuable for a player like Yao to be able to spend more time on the training field with a very good coach like Tommy, and have him to continue to develop. The question was asked about under 20s. I have no idea if he's still available, but like, these
21 now,
players. Okay. So yeah, I mean, these are the sorts of players that need these experiences like this. It's not the 23, 24, 25-year-olds. This is the CPL is the perfect place for Karifa Yao to be right now.
And for him to be not only in a professional environment, but in one which I think we'd probably all agree will be making a serious run at winning a championship this year. Cool. I think that also is really good for a young player, especially of his caliber. I think Karifa Yao is a great center back. He's, unbelievably strong, and he can play out of the back really well, like a lot of the other Cavalry center backs could last year. So I think it's a fantastic environment for him.
All right. I want to talk some more Major League Soccer, but I do need to follow up on my promise earlier. This year's CONCACAF Men's Under-20 Championship runs from the 18th of June to the 3rd of July. It is in San Pedro Sula and Tegucigalpa. Canada is in a group with the Americans, Cuba, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And it is a dual stage qualifying, if you will. The top 4 nations of the semifinalists, they go to the U20 World Cup. And then the winners of the semifinals, your finalists, go to the Olympic Games. So a change in how CONCACAF is structuring those tournaments.
Big summer coming up on OneSoccer. Holy
it's massive.
crap.
It's massive. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And again, the women tonight, U20 in the round of 16, I believe that's on our YouTube channel for free. So if you're already here, just bookmark it for later, put that notification, subscribe, do all the things you got to do there. Triple header on Saturday for the Canadian MLS sides begins at 2 p.m. Toronto versus Red Bulls, 4 p.m. Montreal against Philadelphia at the Big O. And then Saturday night, 6 p.m. Vancouver against New York City FC. Gareth, what are the things or the big ideas, questions that you're keeping in mind as you take in the MLS action this weekend?
All right. Do you want to start with the first game? How about we start with TFC, then work our way
I like
through?
that. Yeah, I'll get a word from each of you on each game. So Gareth on Toronto FC first.
From a Canadian men's national team perspective, I'm looking forward to seeing how the field actually is and how it holds up.
Yeah.
Because there's a men's national game that could be of some importance coming up in 3 weeks' time. I'm curious about that. It was a good TFC performance in game number 1. With a lot of these young players, you might be impressed with the way they look in one game. We've seen that with young players. How they establish themselves is with consistency. So I want to see if Nelson, Marshall Ruddy, Schaffelberg at left back, whether they can maintain or build off what they kind of produced last week. Red Bulls are a good team. All 3 Canadian teams this weekend play good teams. I think they'll all be in tough. But I'm keeping my eye on the young players, particularly the Canadians this weekend for TFC.
Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. I want to see maybe how they react defensively in this game. I know that kind of halftime switch they had to make at halftime against Dallas last week helped a lot with Chris Mavinga going off and O'Neill coming in. The young fullbacks learning new positions, Schaffelberg and Marshall Ruddy, did very well going forward, maybe a little bit scary going backwards. So I think that's an important part of the game for them to learn. And the Red Bulls are a good attacking team. So I'd like to see kind of how they manage that.
I'll be the one to say it. I'm expecting to wait a while, but I will be watching every game minute by minute to hopefully see McNaughton and Chung get their debut. But I'm willing to be patient, understanding that it's going to take some time. I'll do one final round or one final call for questions. We're still going to get to the other 2 MLS Canadian sides, but if you have any more questions, we got about 5 to 10 minutes left, so get them in if there's something on your mind. Okay, Gareth, match 2, the middle of the triple header, Montreal and Philadelphia at the Big O. What are you keeping an eye on?
2 things. One, to see what kind of side Wilfred Nancy plays as they have Champions League. Quarterfinals coming up Wednesday night against Cruz Azul right here on OneSoccer. So is it going to be a team that he's going to be comfortable playing on Wednesday night, or will we see some changes in his team? I do think that they have decent depth, so I do think he can put it into the blender to a certain degree. I also want to see how Kamara does up top. Kyoto suspended for this game. Kamara is one of the best strikers in MLS history, no doubt about that. I think he's like 5th or 6th all time in terms of goal scoring, but he's 37 now, playing on carpet. It's not turf, it's carpet inside the Big O. I'm not sure that's a match made in heaven. I know he's a big personality. He says all the right things on social media, but is he the right fit for this Montreal team? If he is, I think they have something really good going on with Montreal, but they need that other or next reliable goal scorer, especially considering how Mason Toye is not reliable and he's hurt right now. So I'm looking at Kamara leading the line.
Charlie?
Yeah, I was going to mention the Kyoto absence as well, because he's been phenomenal, especially in those CONCACAF Champions League games. But I'll just say I want to see more of the Alistair Johnston show.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of defenders that are more entertaining to watch in MLS. So I especially as a as a Canadian player, I just can't wait to see him continue to, fit into this team and find his place in it.
Benedict with a good one saying, "Carpet is generous. That is green concrete."
Let's hope it doesn't snow. The game might be canceled. That's
an unfortunate reality. Last but certainly not least, first word to Charlie on the Whitecaps and Vancouver and New York City FC. We're almost at the end. I'll get there, I promise.
Yeah, this Whitecaps game is going to be tough. I want to see a bounce back, confidence building game from Thomas Hasal in goal. I think last week was very tough for him. But he's kind of their best option at the moment in goal. So you want to see some confidence come back for the young guy, and to play against a team that just won MLS Cup. If you can put in a good performance, that can go a long way towards building that confidence.
One of the best strikers in Castellanos. I mean, he's the real deal. I don't think that this is anything of Vancouver's play has to do with Hasal. Yeah, I do think they should bring in an experienced number one. He wasn't the problem, or wasn't the main 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 problems last week. Nerwinski's suspended. Look, Jake Nerwinski might be a good guy. If you're a decent MLS team, he's not a starter for me. I couldn't believe that he's starting on the left as part of a back 3. Youngworth, Godoy, both vastly superior. So maybe a little bit more experience across that back 3 will help. I want to see Ryan Gould at his best. I love Gold.
There it is.
And look, like last week was nowhere near it. Is the setup built around him, built for him to achieve? Like I thought that Leonard Owusu last year provided some legs, provided some cover. Is Tybert that guy? I know he can run for days, but he's a different profile, a little bit of a different player. I think you really miss a player like him. I know there's a lot of fans of Baldissimo. He can make a pass like this, but again, how do you make up for his lack of legs or his lack of expansive play? Like just in terms of the way that he uses his body. So I'm just not sure, like the wing players aren't good. I have so many questions about the Whitecaps. I think they were at their best last year when they were just kind of sitting back playing on the counterattack. That might be the way that things work out for New York. Playing at home certainly helps on the turf inside BC Place. I just have massive questions about how that team will respond. Sartini and everyone said all the right things this week. It's time to put it to practice and actually go out and show that this team is good enough to contend for a playoff spot.
I'm not sure if that was Gareth's way of saying Ben Foster from Watford to Vancouver still on the table as a callback from.
No. Well, hey, Ben Foster clean sheeting against Manchester United last week, by the way.
He's auditioning for Sartini and doing very well.
He had a clean sheet against my team. My God.
That's right. So a few CPL questions to finish up. This from Benedict Rhodes. How important is the Joe Mason re-signing? He looked brilliant, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do in a full season. I don't think that Joe will be taking the penalties, especially with Charlie Trafford there now and what happened last year. But all in, Gareth, what are you expecting from Joe Mason this year?
He can be great if he can stay fit. He's beyond the age of 30 now. The travel, the training was very difficult last year with the shorter or more, compact schedule. So I think this season plays more to his strengths. I think that Tommy will understand that it can't just be the Joe Mason show, but they're a team that lacked ideas in attack. I still think they might need another creative player, maybe a player with some pace to add to that front line. If they add that, I think it'll be okay.
Yep. Can be great if they stay fit is kind of true of all of Cavalry this year, I think.
They're at that point of the cycle. That's true.
Joe Mason's, he's got the pedigree and the talent to be fantastic. They've got other attacking players like Anthony Novak and Ali Musi and Ben Fisk that also you'll want to see involved and, a big part of that attack. So
need some more pace there, Charlie. They need some more pace in the attack.
Musi's got
pace.
That's
the one thing they're lacking. But there's one or two guys like Novak, Mason, like these aren't mobile, players that are going to be able to get in behind the back line.
Yeah, especially when you lose the likes of your Salamanis and Farsis. There's definitely a gap in pace there for sure. This is from Archer. I came in late, not sure if the CPL was covered, but what are your outlooks on Atletico Ottawa and in particular Blue Tabla? Charlie had a glowing endorsement of Atletico Ottawa earlier in the show.
Make the playoffs, Charlie.
I didn't call that.
You guaranteed it.
He promised. He bet $100 that Atletico
Ottawa. We'll
have
to go to VAR for that one. We'll have to check the tape on that. But I think they'll probably be the most improved team in the league this year. Balou Tabla in particular, sure, he could totally revive his career there if he's committed, if he's fit, if the attitude is right. He comes in, wanting to make an impact at the CPL level and be an important part of that team. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. They've got a lot of good players that have played well in the CPL, as I've kind of said already. They should be better. They should be a lot better as long as they don't give up a penalty every game.
Yeah, that would be an area to improve, wouldn't it? I think that's
they
the
have
best
all
piece
kinds
of
experience, but like it's again in attack. If Tabla can resurrect his career, then yeah, sure, they're going to be vastly improved. If he doesn't show what he can be, then they might struggle a little bit just in terms of creating goals. But when you bring in Haworth and Tissot and Aliman, like there's a lot of experience now in that team. Your boy Ollie Bassett, but we'll see. All eyes are going to be on Blue Tabla, right? So,
yeah, it's going to be exciting, no doubt about that. We have one final question for the show, and this is from Jack once again. It is a callback or something we wanted to mention earlier. We weren't sure if we're going to have time to get it in, but we'll go here now. So the question from Jack: do you think it's a good idea to sign 14-year-old kids to pro contracts? And that's in reference to the recent news that NYCFC have brought on Maximo Carrizo. Your thoughts on signing someone that young to a pro contract, Gareth?
No, I don't like it at all. Like, there's a reason why in England they restrict it to, you have to be 17, I believe, until you can sign your first team contract. This is a problem with Major League Soccer. They're trying to be this development league right now, providing proper player pathways, which I think we can all agree is a good thing, but this is too much too soon. 14 years of age, and you're signing this homegrown contract. It's not even about the pressure. It's just being able for a young player to work through the process in order to become a professional, just not something that's being handed to young players prematurely. I think this speaks to the fact that a lot of these teams don't have that experienced first team depth, how they're casting their eye towards the future rather than the now. I just think that it's dangerous. It's like, it's not in the best interest of the player. I'll say that. Like, even 16 years of age, when I hear that players are signing at 16, I'm still like, is that player actually ready? And for every Alphonso Davies, like if you're Alphonso Davies and you're clear, you're far and away, able to play at that level better than your contemporaries, you're on the verge of becoming a superstar. I kind of get it, but that shouldn't be the precedent now, that this is the expectations that 14 and 15-year-olds are signing first team contracts. So I don't like it at all.
And I don't know about you guys, but anytime I see something like this, or like even it doesn't matter the sport. Sometimes you see like a hockey reporter be like, meet 13-year-old so-and-so from this cove, Newfoundland and Labrador. Like, I think about what I was doing at 13 and 14. I'm like, how in the world can anyone be this sure that they're like, yep, professional contract. That's what you need. Charlie, your thoughts on Maximo and just signing someone as young as a 14-year-old?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't players at that age that can hang on the pitch in a game, but there's so many other aspects that go into being a professional and signing a professional deal that it's just really, as Will said, it's not in the best interest of the person that's signing that. Like, not even just calling them a player, like just as a person signing a professional contract for anything at age 14 is, I mean, I remember myself at age 14, I wouldn't trust myself to make good decisions. And I don't think that, it's unfortunate, the reality, but there are exploitative agents out there that will, don't necessarily have the player's best interests at heart. But even just players themselves, it can be a tough situation to go into that early, especially to go into, a locker room with seasoned professionals. It's a lot of pressure to put on a guy. Like, I don't think there needs to be a rush to get players that young into the pro game.
I fully agree. Gareth, sorry?
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think there's alternative motives here too. They just want to make sure that that player sticks with the club, that they own their rights, that they have some sense of control about what that future contract or what a future sale will look like. Again, all of these aspects that go into this signing, I just don't think that they play into the favor of the player at all. And it's hard for any young player to turn down a professional contract as well. I think that some kind of limits need to be placed on this. And that's why the academy setups are there. Take your time, proceed through it. You know, you can even go up to now MLS has the MLS next level for players like that to play. And I'm sure he will be playing there, but no need to sign him to a homegrown contract already.
I'm with you. And I let's just say, with all the dangers we sort of outlined, I hope none of them come true, and I hope it works out for Maximo. But in the big grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily the wisest strategy. Two quick things from the chat as we say goodbye. Brett says, "Can we get some FC Edmonton love?" We talked a little bit about Luke saying at the beginning of the show, so feel free to go back and circle back if you missed it. And I just wanted to show this. This is fantastic trolling by our friends at York United FC. It says, "I think York United are the front runners," followed up immediately by "not biased." Not biased, says York United. That's right.
They got a chance. They got a chance.
Certainly
do. Be a decent side this year.
All right, everybody. That's all the time we have.
Jordan Wilson for MVP. Jordan Wilson, MVP.
That's right. Garrett's like contractually obligated now.
OneSoccer MVP.
For MVP. That's also true. For Kyle and Norman behind the scenes, thank you so much. And a reminder, of course, that the women's U20s tonight against the Cayman Islands, round of 16 at the U20 Championship, streaming live right here where you are right now on our YouTube channel. We'll have a link as well on onesoccer.ca, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific, if you want to cheer on our fantastic U20 women and their progress there in CONCACAF. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the Major League Soccer, enjoy the U20s, and we'll be back again to do this all over next Friday and all new episodes of OneSoccer today as well. See you later.